Kia ora. In this video, I'll be talking about the Literacy Writing CAA exam, and I'll be sharing with you some top tips and some exam techniques. There are 3 things that I think you need to remember when you're about to take this assessment. The first is that you must answer the question if you want to be in with a chance of passing. The second is that you can keep your writing simple. You are not trying to show you're a genius because this is only a pass or a fail assessment. You need to just prove to the examiner that you are literate. In other words, that you are able to write. Finally, you do need to meet the word count of both questions 1 and 2 if you want a good chance of passing. Okay, so I've got this writing framework here with a 4-step plan that's going to help you when you're in the exam to make sure that you do everything you need to in order to pass. It goes like this: think, plan, write, and then proofread. I'm going to go through each of these step by step now. Thinking is when you break down the question, and this is what a lot of students have not been doing, and it's the reason they've not been passing. Because when they've gone to answer the question, they haven't done so because they didn't think about what they were being asked to write. So here I've got, what are you being asked to write? What is the purpose? As in, what are you supposed to be writing for? Who's the audience? Who's reading it? What are the conventions of this type of text? So what do we expect from this kind of writing? And how should it be structured? As in, how should it be organized on the page? So what I'm going to do now is take a look at the June 2023 pilot, and I'm going to apply these bullet points to this question. And I'm going to imagine that I'm a student here, and I'm going to be breaking down the question for you out loud, because this is the kind of thing you need to be thinking about and doing when you sit this assessment. So here we go. The title, your advice is needed. I'm already thinking that this is some kind of advice, writing to advise that they're asking me to do. You belong to an online support forum where young people write in to ask for advice. Okay, so it's an online support forum, young people asking for advice, and then this here looks like, there we go, it's the young people writing in. So we've got Charlie, Tia and Ali are all writing in with their problems. I'll give you a moment to pause the video and just read what's in these speech bubbles. Okay, so they've all got different problems. Let's read on and see what the examiners are asking us to do. Write a respectful response to one of these people. Okay, 1 is capitalized. They obviously want me to really notice that I'm only writing a response to one of them. And I can tell you now, when I was marking these in June, a lot of students had ignored this capitalized 1 and actually responded to all 3 of the young people, which was a real problem for them and a waste of time in the assessment. So this just really is a lesson to us in how important it is to look at that question really, really closely before you pick up your pen, or actually before you, in this exam, start to type your answer. The next thing here, as I read on, is that they say this could include acknowledging the problem, giving some guidance, and finishing positively. Okay, they're actually really helping me out here because they are giving me things that I can say in my response. So if I'm going to respond to Tia because I feel the most comfortable writing about problems sleeping, it's something I've thought about before, and I feel like I've got some ideas for how I can advise Tia. I'm going to start off by acknowledging her problems. I'm going to say something like, I understand this must be really hard for you, Tia. I'll try and help you. I'm going to give her some guidance. So I'm going to give her some guidance about going to bed at a consistent time, and I'm also going to talk about staying off devices near bedtime. And then I'm going to finish positively, so I'm just going to wish her all the best and tell her that she can get in touch with me if she has any more problems. So there we go. And it's 150 words, so I think that's probably going to be about 150 words. How should it be structured? Well, that has really helped me out with the structure. I'm also going to make sure that I'm addressing Tia at the beginning, so I know that I need to say, Dear Tia, and I'm going to sign off at the end with my name. And this one here, what are the conventions of this type of text? Well, it's an online support forum, so I am going to make sure that I'm supportive. I'm going to address my writing to Tia. I'm going to sign off at the end. And although I am talking to young people, as it says up here, I'm just going to make sure that I keep my language formal, just because it's an NCEA exam, and I just want to show the examiner that I do know how to write formally. Okay, let's move on. The next step in the writing framework is planning, and this is where you take really brief notes on all of the things that I just talked about before. So you're going to take notes on the purpose, the audience, note down any evidence and examples you're going to use, note down how you're going to structure it, and any key vocabulary you want to use. You only need to spend 2 or 3 minutes on the planning, and because it's digital, you can either just do bullet point plan, and remember, this isn't being graded. Your plan isn't being looked at by the examiner, so you do not need to write accurately in the plan. You can just do 1 or 2 word notes, and that's just for you yourself, and it's a guide for when you're writing. You can also have a piece of refill in this assessment, so if you prefer to plan with a mind map or a brainstorm kind of style, you can also do that. And the next stage is write, and this is the stage that a lot of students just jump straight to in the first place. But once you've done your thinking and your planning, you're going to be feeling really confident that you know what you're writing about by this point. So you can follow your plan, and that's going to help you stay on task to make sure that you are answering the question. You're going to keep your writing fairly simple, and you're going to stop and proofread fairly regularly throughout the writing process to check your writing accurately. And that's something that I'm going to be talking about next when we look at how to proofread your work. Now let's talk about proofreading. So a really good thing about these exams being digital is that you can really easily edit your work, because when you're writing on paper, it can get tricky when you're having to cross lots of things out and find somewhere new to put your new thing in and use stars to tell the examiner where to look and so forth. But for this digital exam, it's really easy. You can just delete something and add something in. What you need to do is go into this exam with a proofreading strategy. So this proofreading checklist on the screen now should prove really useful to you. These are the things that you need to remember to check if you want to succeed in this exam. Let's start at the beginning with structure. Have I used paragraphs? If you haven't, add them in. Is my work formatted correctly? Just check that you haven't got any strange spaces between words, and just check that you have left a clear space between your paragraphs, just to make it really easy for the reader to read your work. Accuracy. Have I used capital letters? Have I checked that my work makes sense? Does every sentence end with a full stop? Now these two here are really what are tripping students up a lot. You must make sure that your writing is simple and makes sense. You don't want it to be confusing for the reader when they're trying to mark your work. You must check that you have got full stops in. This is a really common reason that students aren't passing this exam, is that their work is just full of run-on sentences, which means they haven't got full stops at the end of each complete thought. Have I used question marks for questions if you've got any questions? And finally, for accuracy, have I checked my spelling? Now I know for some students spelling can be a real challenge. There is a spell checker on this digital assessment, so you just need to make sure that you remember to check your spellings and just try your best with that. Let's come back now to the content part of the proofreading checklist. Is it appropriate for the purpose and audience? Have I answered the question? So this is where you just come back to basics and you just look back at the question, you look back at your plan, and you double check that what you have written is appropriate. Have I given evidence and examples to support the points that I'm making? Have I used formal language? Just checking that you haven't used any slang or any kind of letter U's instead of the word Y-O-U and that kind of thing. Also just check that you've used some good vocabulary. So when you find any problems, you can edit your work and make improvements. And if you do think about all of the bullet points on this proofreading checklist, you should be in with a really good chance of being successful in this writing assessment. Thank you for listening.